Whether you're looking to benefit the bottom line or you're looking to make more money per month in commissions, put these 3 systems in place and I guarantee you make more money. The first one is make sure you record all of your sales calls. So Kobe Bryant, he was known to be obsessed, and when the season was on, him and his coach, apparently they used to watch 4 to 5 hours of gameplay every session, rewind, pause, monitor, really analyze their performance and where they need to improve and what they need to keep doing. And sales is exactly the same. You have to understand how you're performing on the sales call. You can do this with a range of tools. I recommended to a client last week that the best way to do this is to use Fathom AI. I use it myself on my sales calls. It's really fantastic at picking everything up, picks up the transcript, and the best thing about it, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. So happy days. Guys, it's super important to listen to the sales call because you need to know, you need to look back at your call and understand, what did I say which turned the prospect off? How was my body language? How was their body language after a selling question? For example, like when I listen back to my own calls, I notice gaps where I ask a question, the prospect responds. When they respond, I may go in with another question too soon, where if I let that pause to sit, they probably would have given me more information. Or for another example, I listened back to my sales call and we were getting deep into the problem and I asked a question and I put us back to a logical state instead of the emotional state, which is where the pain is. And I can only recognize where there's holes in my game by listening back to my calls. So that's why it's so important. It's a game changer to listen back to your calls. Remember, we can't improve what we don't track. And that's why the greatest athletes, the greatest sports teams in the world, they are obsessive about reviewing their performance and tracking their data. The next thing you need to do is you need to get comfortable with dealing with objections and hearing the word no. If you're not comfortable with hearing the word no, the downstream problem of that is you don't ask. And he who asks for the sale the most has the best chance of getting the sale. We will deal with objections in the sales process and we will deal with no's. And we must remember that no's are not carved in stone. Remember, I always say it, a man has 2 reasons for doing a thing. The first sounds good, the second is the underlying reason. Objections are just a smokescreen. They're just a smokescreen for uncertainty. Uncertainty about you, uncertainty about your product, or a massive part of uncertainty in a buying process is the uncertainty that your prospect feels that they are going to make the right decision for them. It's their uncertainty around their ability to make decisions, which is huge if you think about it, because we're indecisive and they don't have the confidence in themselves to make the right decision for them. That's why they're probably in this problem, which we're looking to solve. So I'll give you a really simple framework. This is from Alex Hormozi. It's called the AAA framework. It's acknowledge, associate, and ask. So, for example, we ask for the sale and they say, I need to talk to my wife. You say, Dave, completely understand that you want to talk to your wife. It's completely normal that you want to speak to her. And you know, some of our most successful founders also wanted to speak to their partner around this decision. Then we ask, Dave, what do you feel like your wife will say? So we've acknowledged. If we can just repeat back what they said, we can associate their situation with someone who's had success in our program or our service or our product. And then we ask to get to the underlying factor. And just for an example on this, he may respond to this question, what do you think she will say? With, she may say it's too expensive. She may say she doesn't know if it's going to work or not. She may say, like, do you trust this guy? And he hasn't even spoken to his wife yet. So the response he gives you is not the response his wife's going to give him. It's what he's feeling. And this is the underlying objection. Remember, 2 reasons for doing a thing. The first one sounds good. The second one is the underlying truth. So this isn't too much about objection handling. This is more just around acknowledge. And if you don't know how to acknowledge, just say, yeah, I completely understand. So you just want to repeat it back to them. It also shows that you're listening. Associate where they are with someone who's in your program or service that's had a lot of success in doing what you do. And then ask to get to the underlying reason of the prospect's objection, which is uncertainty. Another one is, I need to think about it. James, I just need to think about it. You say, Dave, I totally understand that you need to obviously give this some thought. It obviously sounds like you're really considering us working together, which is great. You see, and we're pushing them towards a decision to working with us. Dave, help me understand, what's your main concern at the moment? Some people like to say, like, what are you thinking about? I find this is potentially a bit defensive. Like, if I say to someone I need to think about something, and they say, what do you need to think about? And it's really hard to, like, say it in a neutral tone, because in your head you're like, mate, what the do you need to think about? We've been on the call for 3 hours. Like, what do you need to think about? So it's hard to say, what do you need to think about in a way which doesn't make them defensive? So you can say, what's your main concern? Because there's a concern there, so just get it out there and you'll hear price, risk, guarantee, whatever. So the main idea of this part is we need to be comfortable with dealing with objections. So you need to go away and you need to practice these. So the third thing and the final thing I recommend you to do is, with Fathom, download the recordings, download the transcripts, copy the transcripts, just put it into ChatGTP. A lot of us don't have a sales coach. A lot of us don't have a head of sales to speak to. We can use Chat to analyze our transcript. I always recommend that we watch the call back, physically watch it, listen to it, because so much communication is not just words, and ChatGTP won't be able to pick that up. But you can ask, what part of the call was good? What part of the call was bad? Where was the sale won? Where was the sale lost? What are things I need to improve on? What are things I should keep doing? And you can ask it to compare it to a certain type of style of selling. For example, Jordan Belfort's got straight line selling. I recommend you use Keenan's gap selling. That is a fantastic ideology of sales. And you just say, here's my transcript, here's the type of sales I like, can you guide me on what I need to improve? If you do that after every call, you'll be able to see the patterns of what goes on in your sales call, where you need to improve or where you're doing well, and you can improve on those areas. And you'll probably, like for myself, I see the same things coming up again and again and again. And we get to see patterns which are ruining our sales. We must reimagine that sales calls are, we're in the arena, we're a gladiator, we're in the arena, we're about to fight in the arena. And if we just only practice to be in that arena while we're in the arena, which happens a lot, people only practice sales when they're on the sales call with no preparation, we're gonna have a terrible time. Imagine all of these athletes, imagine the Olympics, people who train for 20 years every day. For example, a sprinter will train 15, 16, 17 years every day for 10 seconds on that world stage. Of course, this is an extreme example. What I'm trying to say is you need to put in huge amounts of preparation. So when you're on the sales call, you're not wasting that call. You're using that call as training, but that's the live game. We need to practice that. We need to practice for the live game like anything else. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd use the first 4 sharpening the axe, or 5, I don't know what he said. Point is, preparation is key. And following on from this, I do the exact same with closing. Like, I don't want to practice my closing on the call. I want to use my closing skills on the call. I don't want to practice. I want to get better on the sales call with my closing skills. But I don't want to waste deals and lose potential revenue because I don't know how to deal with an objection. You can just go to ChatGTP, say, this is my framework, AAA framework. Give me some objections. You can say, be a prospect who needs to speak to their spouse. Be someone around budget. Be someone who's risk adverse. Practice 45 minutes a day, every single day. So when you go into that arena and you deal with the no's, you deal with the objections, you're not going to feel massive amounts of anxiety. Oh, they said no, what do I say now? I need to think about it. Okay, no worries. Nah, I need to think about it. Yeah, Dave, completely understand. Obviously, this needs thought. And it sounds like you're seriously considering us working together. Dave, do you mind me asking, what's the main concern at the moment? And you can only do that from reps, from practicing. And ChatGPT is not great. It's not a great practice partner. If you've got a head of sales, if you can hire a sales coach, perfect. But it's something. and it's a lot better than nothing. So that's what I would do. 45 minutes a day for 90 days. Objection handling on ChatGPT. Your sales game will become so much better. You will close so many more deals. So guys, remember, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 or 5 of those hours sharpening the axe. Preparation, record the sales calls, get comfortable with hearing the word no, and practice however way you can. Thanks for watching.